Donald Trump is losing his base. The MAGA podcasters are running for the hill. You don't get much more MAGA than Liz Wheeler. How MAGA is Liz Wheeler? She was one of the people who showed up at the White House back in February and held up the Epstein files binder. And she goes, "I've got the Epstein files exclusive." She held it up with all those other influencers showing what they got. And now here's what she posted. Pam Bondi's testimony was a total disaster. In one exchange, Congressman Jerry Nadler asked Bondi some very straightforward questions. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating? And in response, Bondi lost it. I didn't hear any number. I didn't hear any explanation. All I heard was a raised tone of voice, hurled insults, a flustered demeanor, and filibustering. And she goes, "I don't think the Democrats were acting in good faith," whatever. But she goes, "But Bondi's catastrophic showing yesterday and her entire handling of the Epstein files for the last year are exactly what not to do as Attorney General. You were literally there holding the binder. You were one of the people she had back in February." And by the way, here is what Liz Wheeler said on her podcast the other day. Let's play it.
Jamie Raskin jumps in and says, "I told you, Attorney General, beforehand not to filibuster." And Pam Bondi then responds very combatively, "You don't tell me things, you washed up." And then whether she's talking to Raskin, whether she's back to talking to Nadler, she says, "You're not even a lawyer." I mean, you want to talk about theatrics here. Here's the thing. She goes, "You don't like my answer."
Then here's what Joe Rogan had to say. Let's play it.
So we know Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem sent the torture video to Epstein. This is in 2009. So Epstein was saying that. "Where are you? Are you okay? I love the torture video.
Jeez.
I am in China. I'll be in the U.S. second week of May." What the fuck, man? And why is his name redacted? Why would your name be redacted if you're not a victim? Like, this is what's crazy about all this.
Andrew Scholes, let's play it.
So now that we know that everybody from Trump, Patel, Bondi, Bongino, like everybody that was involved in this, this is just a hoax. We don't have anything. Like,
Clearly lied.
They're all on record saying versions of this, right? With the latest tranche, all of that is a lie.
Yes.
Right? Has it been proven effectively that is complete falsehood?
What exactly is a falsehood?
The statements that this is just a Democrat hoax and this is, I don't even know what that means.
And then you have the Tommy Lawrence podcast and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's play it.
We have the leader of our party and our president attacking Taylor Swift, their favorite artist. That's not very good. It's things like that are ridiculous. Like,
okay, I want to show you one of my favorite parts of the Bondi hearing, though. It was Moskowitz's question of Bondi. Let's just play that.
Now, Madam Attorney General, I have like 25 seconds left. So because I'm curious, and I'd like to see, flip to the Jared Moskowitz section of the binder. I'm interested to see what staff provided on the oppo on me. And because we're in the Olympics, I'm going to give it a grade. I just want to see how good it is. So give me your best one.
So first of all, nothing is funny about mocking the Bible and holding up a Trump Bible. That's what you did. You made a joke, and I find offense to that. That's all I have to say.
I want it from the burn book.
Shame.
I want it from the burn book. Which is the best one? What you got?
Has expired. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you. I want to bring in right now Congressmember Jared Moskowitz. Congressman, it's great to see you. I showed you these videos of all these right-wing podcasters who were like, even they can't cover this up anymore. Your questioning of Bondi was incredible. Just, if you can, walk us through first, though, just your questioning, what you observed there. Like, what's your perspective being in that room?
Well, first of all, I have a different take than a lot of people, Ben. I actually think it went very well for her. I mean, don't you? You don't think it didn't? I thought it went well. No?
Look, I think that if she was positioning herself for Secretary of State or Department of Defense, she's definitely next in line to the Peter Principle.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we saw this week. Perhaps she was spending time with Secretary Kennedy and boosting her immune system by, snorting cocaine off a toilet seat like Kennedy did in order to make sure he doesn't get any germs. I have no idea what that hearing was. I mean, she obviously came in with a tactic, and maybe it would have worked sparingly here and there, but to ask every Republican for 20 seconds to respond to the Democrat, and then they didn't respond. They just read from the burn book. That's why I was like, she doesn't need to yield 20 seconds or ask for 20 seconds from one of my colleagues. I'll give her 20 seconds of my time. Like, let's do it. Like, let's hear the stuff from the burn book. I don't think it worked for her. I think the American people wanted to hear some answers on Epstein, at least some answers on Epstein, right? I mean, she could have just defended the president, which we would have expected because it's an audience of one, and then said, look, these other people, we're going to relook at this stuff. We're going to relook at these co-conspirators. We're going to relook at these unredacted names. We're going to relook at these photos. And if there's enough evidence, we're going to prosecute. And she could have blamed Merrick Garland and all that other stuff. But you're the attorney general now. Like, start attorney generaling, and it didn't. I don't think it worked because she provided no answers. And it just looked like she was providing cover. Now, what we don't know, of course, is what were her instructions. Perhaps she was put into a box, in fairness to her, for a second. And maybe the president said, this is what you do. This is what you're going to do. We don't know that, right? We don't know if that was her strategy or if that was a strategy given to her or what she's allowed to do. I mean, let's not pretend for a second that the Attorney General's office, the Department of Justice in this administration, is a separate arm of the executive branch doing what they think is right. No, they're doing what they're told to do. I mean, the president, thinks he's sending a DM to the Attorney General, right? And he's putting it on Truth Social, his instructions on what to do. I mean, the latest one, obviously, is they're trying to indict 2 senators and 4 House members for freedom of speech. We got, box wine aficionado Jeanine Pirro, leading that whole thing. And thankfully, they didn't get the grand jury to indict them because there's no evidence, by the way. But the rumor is they're trying again. So it's crazy times. We're living in the upside down. But real damage is being done to our institutions, to Congress, long-term damage being done to the Article I branch of government, and the American people are suffering through all of this. So, 1 year down, Ben, 3 more to go.
Jeanine Pirro just filed a $250,000 slip and fall case in New York. And I wonder if the wine box connoisseur aspect of it will become a defense by the city. I believe it's a slip and fall.
Was she
case.
Carrying it at the time? Ben, those things can be heavy, right? So if she was carrying it, she might have been like a little off kilter.
We'll see if the defense sends a private investigator to track that down. You've been able to get access, I believe, to that DOJ special secure facility where they have the unredacted files, which are actually still redacted and which should have been produced. What was that experience like, and what can you share?
So you get to one of the Department of Justice buildings. You go through security. And originally we were allowed to bring a staff member with us up to the 10th floor. You get to the 10th floor. There's nobody on the 10th floor. All the offices, all the cubicles are empty. They put our staff member in an office. By the way, they later changed that policy later on during the day that we were no longer allowed to bring a staff member. But anyways, you get into a room. There are 4 computers. They log you in with a separate login for each congressman. So that was obviously peculiar. These weren't just terminals that were open for us. Everyone had a specific login with a specific password. Why would we need that? And so we now know, obviously, because they were tracking our search history, which is fine. Like, you can look at what we're looking at. In fact, the American people want to know this. It's not a secret, so it's not embarrassing to track us. Should have just told us, like our queries are you're going to be able to see our queries. I figured they would. But anyways, you sit down, they log you in, and it's, 2.7 million documents. They're not organized in any specific way. You can't really find anything. The names of the documents are all, file HTTP dash whatever, So the only real way to do it is to go to the redacted files, figure out what that batch number is for that file, and then go find it in the unredacted files. The system they have has a 25-page manual sitting next to you on the desk, just in case you need help on figuring out how to use the system. And so that's what we did. We went in with batch numbers to look for documents. And originally the staff was like, what are you doing? You can't do that. It's like, what do you mean you can't do that? Otherwise, how do you find stuff? And so, look, that's how a lot of us were able to read what's in the files. Ben, I can tell you it's beyond disgusting what's in the files. A worldwide sex trafficking ring. Epstein was getting girls from Poland and Russia and Czech. Paris modeling agencies were sending him girls. He had a relationship with a summer camp. He was grooming 14-year-olds at a picnic table. Obviously, this was for him and for others. This wasn't just for him. And we know that, right? Because there are photos now, there are emails with unredacted names, there are co-conspirators. And so, after a year of the American people pounding the table and Congress on almost completely bipartisan basis, every member of the House except one and the entire Senate forcing the administration to release these files, we're finally starting to make headway for the victims.
I did a video on Friday where I went through prime ministers of foreign countries who are now being criminally investigated or charged, national security advisors, business leaders, resigning or being investigated. And what just strikes me is, here in the United States, when you're confronted with things like, Howard Lutnick bringing children, to the island after Lutnick says, I knew Epstein was a bad guy. I never saw him again because I knew what he was up to. So I got out of there. And you bring your children
what he said is, I knew he was blackmailing people. He was the world's greatest blackmailer. So I decided I would go have lunch with him on his island.
On the island. And then Trump is asked about it. Well, what do you make about that? And Donald's like, I heard he brought his children. And it's like, yeah, that's the issue. Like, that's the problem. And, I don't know the right words to capture it, like demented, it is a parody of a parody. But these are the people who are in charge right now. And in a bit, I want to talk about just some other aspects because.
But also, Ben, it was the lie that was told, right? He lied, or he's backtracking, or he had his recollection, his memory, recalled by the documents. But I mean, why not just tell people in advance? Because now that's where the problem is. It's the same thing for Kash Patel. I mean, Kash under oath said his name was in the documents less than 100 times. Either Kash didn't know the real answer, and spoke too soon, or he was lying. Because obviously Donald Trump's name is in there tens of thousands of times, not less than 100 times. Kash also said under oath that there was nobody else that were getting girls trafficked to them but Epstein. It was all for Epstein, nobody else. Well, we know that's not true. So either he didn't know or that was a lie. And so that's where now, as we move forward, and maybe they thought the documents would never come out, but at the end of the day, that's now where, now there's more threads to pull because now they said one thing and now it's clear that the truth is different.
Probably saw the new reporting on Kristi Noem, how they would fire pilots when she would be out with Lewandowski, if they would leave her blankie behind. And
they didn't fire the officers, right, that shot 2 Americans and killed them. But they fired the pilot that, didn't have her blankie ready.
She's going to be testifying soon. You've called for her resignation, which is probably the easiest, it's like the easiest call to make. What are you expecting? The last time she testified, she pretended she had to leave because there was a meeting with FEMA that was going to gut FEMA and that meeting never happened. So she lied to leave an hour into it and it was a disaster. What should we look forward to when she testifies before your committee?
Well, she's coming in 3 weeks. If DHS is not open by then, I expect her to use that as an excuse and not come. We'll see if I'm right or wrong there. But look, I mean, it's going to be a very tough hearing for her. I have a lot of questions. The Wall Street Journal article that came out today is extremely troubling. There's lots of rumors of what's going on at DHS, a lot of pay-to-play rumors that are going on there. I'm deeply concerned about FEMA being the only former emergency management director in Congress. FEMA did need reform. Right? The president was right about that. I've said that many times. There was reform that was needed. One of those reforms was getting FEMA out of Homeland because Homeland was disabusing FEMA, using them to run the grants of 22 other agencies. They weren't focused on response anymore. They became a bureaucratic mess. But that's not what Noem did. What Noem did is she destroyed it. She ruined it even further. She made it even slower. She made it even more bureaucratic. Everything that is $100,000 or more has to go to her desk. That's more bureaucracy. That's slowing things down. That's not reform. That's not efficiency. And there's really good people at FEMA. Not every agency is perfect. Of course, there's people there, that have made mistakes in every agency. But these are people who come and help Americans in their time of need. By the way, what I don't understand is that by the president's own metrics, not mine, but by the president's own metrics, what accomplishments does she have? She's holding up 200 miles of border wall. Again, that's not my metric. That would be the president. So she's failing at that. She's deported less people than Barack Obama. So again, not my metric, but the president's metric. So she's failing at that. She can't get any of these grants out of her office, the largest FEMA backlog in American history. She's not helping any of these red state governors with any of their disasters. So what are her accomplishments? I mean, if this were the show Apprentice, which the president, was very successful on, was much CTV, was very popular. He had people on and he would fire them, Eric on the right, Junior on the left, Ivanka would come sometimes and he would say, listen, you sucked. You're the weakest member of the team. You're fired. I mean, who's the weakest member of his team now? It's definitely Kristi Noem. Why hasn't he fired her? Listen, I'll make him a proposition. I guarantee you his ratings would improve if he brought her into the cabinet room, his boardroom, got everyone around the table and said, Kristi, you're not building any border wall. Barack Obama deported more people. You're not doing a really good job. You're fired. I mean, the ratings people would pay to watch that. But I don't know why it hasn't happened. I think it needs to happen for the people at DHS and all the agencies there. I think it would actually do the president a lot of good. And I think it would be helpful to the American people. We need policy changes at DHS, but who's going to implement those policy changes? Kristi Noem? I mean, that's a joke.
RFK. Let's play the clip of him.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats. And I know this disease will kill me.
And that's his pitch not to be fired. I mean, you have him, you have...
Theo Von's sitting there like, yeah, man, I've been there.
Pete Hegseth.
We've all done that.
Pete Hegseth using lasers to shoot down birthday balloons and close out the airspace over El Paso, getting into a fight with Sean from Real World Road Rules Challenge, who runs the Department of Transportation. So there's a lot of contenders, Moskowitz. Before we go, what's your final word to our 6 million subscribers out there?
I mean, listen. At this point, Kristi Noem should just come out and say that she's had a brainworm like Kennedy, and that's been the excuse for the last year.
Bold words to conclude there, Moskowitz.
Hang in there. Let's get to 7 million viewers.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million first. Thanks.
Okay. I got ahead of myself.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.